Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together with all of you. Beginning as always with a question that's come in advance, then we'll open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. Do you agree that a person's education is never complete? That there is always something to learn? Absolutely. On every level. I mean, even on the most academic level, even before we get to life education and spiritual education, even just on an academic level, there's so much to learn. There are parts of me that would be so excited to be able to redo university. I mean, just to have that opportunity to have hundreds and hundreds of possible classes taught by people such expert in different fields. I mean, at the time when I was in university, all I wanted to do was finish it up. And, it was sort of a how quick can I get out of here feeling. But in retrospect, if I somehow could live two lives simultaneously and I didn't actually have to leave from here to go do that, I would so happily redo university over and over again until I had taken so many of the classes. Whether it's the classes around art, so literature, poetry, actual art, these expressions from people's hearts over the centuries, different cultures, different worlds, different open hearts. It's such a gift to be able to connect with someone else's heart in that way. And the science, I love the science. To understand each day how much more of a perfect and miraculous creation the creation is. It's extraordinary. You look at a cell. You think, my God. How it all works. Just look at this body. We put such junk into it. Just think about the most basic things that your body can do. You take junk. If you stuck junk in your car, it would stop. It wouldn't go. You stick junk in us, and somehow this body turns that junk into fuel, into energy, and then what it doesn't want, it just gets rid of. It's just such an incredible system. You think about things like sleeping and waking up. How does that even work? So I love learning. It definitely excites me. I certainly don't feel that my education, regardless of how good it may have been by standards of academic excellence, it's definitely not even close to over. But then you have the whole realm of what I would call education about things that actually matter, which isn't usually so much that which we learn in school. It's the education about making a life rather than making a living. So our school teaches us all of that which we need to know to make a living. You want to be a doctor, you learn all of it. You want to be an engineer, you learn all of it. You want to be a lawyer, you learn all of it. So we get all of the knowledge and the skills to make a living. But we're not usually taught actually about life. I know when I first came to India at 25, having graduated from Stanford University, being in the midst of a PhD program, having thought that I knew a lot. I mean, if you had asked me before I came to India, I would have said, yeah, I know so much. But it wasn't until I got here that I actually realized that I knew nothing about actual life. I just knew a lot of facts and figures. So in terms of education about actual life, our life, that divine life, that divine self, I don't think that education can ever be complete either, because I think we just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. It's why enlightened masters, those we would call avatars, divine beings here on the planet, our gurus, they meditate. Right? Otherwise, why bother? Right? I mean, you're there already. Why would you meditate? Why would you do japa? But they all do. Every enlightened master I've been blessed to be in the presence of meditates, prays, does their japa. Because I think there's always, no matter how already fully enlightened you may be, ever deeper, ever deeper, ever deeper. It's like an infinite, constantly deepening, constantly expanding, infinitely expanding experience. So, no, on absolutely no level that I can possibly think of would I say that anyone's education is complete. And those who maybe I would say, like the gurus, they're the ones who keep going deeper, keep teaching themselves. So yeah, life is to keep learning. But ideally to take it from our heads into our hearts, that it stops being about an accumulation of facts and figures and knowledge, and it starts being much more about actually life. This life, next life, the continuity between all of our lives, the continuity between our life and each other's lives. So it's an ever deepening, ever opening, constant learning. It's what jnana is, that unfolding of wisdom. Yeah. Questions? Yes.
I have these dreams at night, mostly like nightmares. And then comes a point when I realize this is just a dream. So the dream is it's not a problem. And I feel like it's the same here. like being here right now and present, then there can't be a problem. But then there comes the point in the dream when you wake up, and it's like you can laugh about it. Before it is like it's no problem, but it's like I don't know.
Absolutely. This is a way that sages and rishis and wise beings have described our existence for millennia. That just as when you're in a dream, good dream, bad dream, nightmare, when you're in it, it feels real. But when you wake up, you realize it wasn't real and you can laugh about it. In the same way, this here feels real. And when we wake up from that, then we also can laugh about this. So, yes, the problems that we face in a dream or in a nightmare, the minute that you realize, whether because you've woken up or through even in that dream, through what we would call lucid dreaming, you're able to realize even while you're still dreaming, this is only a dream, or this is only a nightmare, and so you don't take it nearly as seriously. You certainly don't worry or fear. It loses that grip of fear on you. And in the same way in this life, when we realize that essentially it's a dream from which we will wake up, even while we're still living it, as we meditate, as we become more conscious and aware and realized, living it, we are able to realize, oh, this is just a dream. Now the difference is you don't have any duty or any instruction, any spiritual responsibility to keep living that dream or nightmare. Once you're awake, it's just like, oh, thank God, I'll get up now. Whereas here, we actually have what we call dharma, which is our purpose, our raison d'être, our responsibility. Not a perfect definition, but all of these are different ways of speaking about this concept of dharma. It's what we are meant to do, which you don't have in a normal dream, the kind you have lying in your bed. So here we've got this very unique situation where on the one hand, as we wake up internally, we realize this is not real. And simultaneously, we have a responsibility to fulfill our role here. And that's why the spiritually awake beings are the ones who don't just keep sitting. I mean, you look at the life of the Buddha, for example. He sits under the tree, he attains enlightenment, but then he gets up. And then he comes back, and he starts teaching, and he starts serving. Because he had a dharma. And if you look at all of the realized masters, from their moment of realization, that's actually the time that they stood up and were even more committed to the fulfillment of their purpose here in that which they had just realized was a dream. So it's a very interesting opportunity that we have, which is to wake up in the middle of it so that we're not held by it. It's all about the difference between being stuck and being free. If I don't realize this is a dream, I'm stuck in it. Things happen, I'm miserable, I'm frustrated, I'm angry. Other things happen, I'm joyous and elated, and I go up and down constantly. I bounce around like the ball in a pinball machine that somebody pulls back, and because we don't realize it's a dream, so we're stuck in it. When we do realize, well, then we become free. So we're still living here. We're still even more so doing our dharma, doing our duty. But we're no longer stuck. We're free. And so there isn't that suffering. Because there isn't that attachment. There isn't that stuckness. You can think about it like a jail. The prisoner's in jail, stuck. The jailer's in jail because the jailer works there. But the jailer comes and goes at whim. The jailer shows up every day because it is his or her duty to show up, not because they're stuck. And in the same way, that's how we end up living. So yeah, it loses its fear. It loses that stuckness. But we stay, because now life becomes actually exquisitely beautiful. Now we're able to really taste the divinity of life because we're free. That's what Jiva Mukti means, is free while living. Jiva Mukti. And so that becomes the goal. And it's through that that we actually experience the juice of life. Because otherwise we're way too stuck in our heads about what we don't have and how things are not how we want them to be and what we need. And when we realize it's all a dream, we have everything we need, well, then we're actually able to start really experiencing that juice of it, that ras of life. Beautiful. Just behind you, yes. Unke piche thi.
I had a question that how do you stop comparing yourself to others?
So there's two tools to stop comparing. Number one, when we compare, let me start here. When we compare, we usually compare unfavorably. It's rare, not never, but it's rare that we compare ourselves favorably, that we say, wow, I am so much more attractive than that person. Wow, I am so much smarter than that person. Wow, I am so much more blessed than that person. It's much more the opposite. Oh God, they're so beautiful. I'm so ugly. Why couldn't I look like that? Oh God, they've got this thing. This is what I want. I wish I could have it. Or they're so smart. They're so funny. They're so confident. Why am I not like that? So we usually compare ourselves unfavorably. But in either case, the first tool of solution is recognize that you are full and you are perfect. If you were supposed to be different, God would have made you different. To assume that there is something lacking in you is to assume that God left you half-baked. That somehow God, made a big mistake. But God doesn't make mistakes. So you recognize the fullness of you and the perfection of you that's different. Like in any flower garden, the rose and the jasmine and the sunflower are so different from each other. In a fruit orchard, the banana, the orange, the apple, the grapes, the pineapple, they're so different from each other. But everyone is beautiful. In our human body, the different parts, my liver, my ears, my toes, my lungs, my heart, my fingers, my nose, they're so different from each other. But they're all so perfect. None of them should ever wish that they were more like the other, or they would lose the perfection of who they are. I mean, if my liver started trying to become more like my nose, it wouldn't serve me very well as a liver. If a banana started trying to become more like an orange, it would lose its beautiful banana-ness. So that's the first tool, is you recognize that. And the second tool is whenever that comparing starts, immediately, just start appreciating the other person. So instead of the sense of jealousy or lack in you, so for example, let's say that you see someone who you think is much more beautiful than you are. And so automatically the mind says, oh God, I'm so ugly next to her. I'm so, whatever it may be, next to her. Why couldn't I be? Instead of that, shift it. Wow, she is so beautiful. It is so nice to look at her. What beautiful eyes she has. Just start appreciating it full stop. Like a piece of art. Or if someone's so smart, instead of saying, my God, I'm so stupid next to him. It's not fair. God, why wasn't I as smart as he is? Just start appreciating him. Wow, what a smart guy. That's so impressive. Full stop. See other people with the same appreciation and equanimity that you would see a fruit orchard or a flower garden. As you walk through a flower garden, you don't say, oh God, I wish the jasmine were more like a rose. You're able to just individually appreciate each one of them. Oh, these beautiful jasmine. Oh, these beautiful roses. Oh, this beautiful sunflower. It's a practice of just equanimity, meaning I see it all, but I don't have this internal drive that one is somehow better than the other, that somehow looking like her or knowing things like he does, that somehow that's better than I am. Of course not. We're all perfect in our own way. And so you start to just look at other people the way that you look at flowers in a garden. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that wonderful? Or that you would look at actors or dancers or singers on a stage. You go to the theater and you don't feel like, oh my God, why can't I sing like that? You just appreciate the way that that person is singing. You don't compare yourself, or hopefully you don't. Otherwise you lose all the joy of going to the theater. I mean, could you imagine if every drama you went to see or every movie you saw where these professional dancers are dancing, if instead of being able to appreciate their dance, you were wrapped up in how you're not as good a dancer as they are, you'd never be able to appreciate anything. So in the same way, just whether it's family members or friends or colleagues or other people in the community or people on social media, just see them all as different flowers in a flower garden or different fruit trees in a fruit orchard or different artists' paintings in a museum, right? You look at this artist's paintings, that artist's paintings. Nobody says, God, I wish, Van Gogh painted more like Picasso. We're able to look at both of them and understand and appreciate the art of both. Full stop. So cultivate the ability to appreciate yourself, because don't only appreciate those outside, appreciate yourself as well. As just another beautiful flower in the flower garden. And see others in the same way. And cultivate this equanimity, where none of it is better or worse. It's all just beautifully perfect in its variety. And God made you different from others in the same way that He made the rose and the jasmine different, and bananas and oranges different. Because as Pujya Swamiji always says, God loves diversity. That's why out of billions and billions of people who have ever lived, nobody has the same fingerprint. Right? Why bother? Did God anticipate that we were going to commit crimes and get arrested and need to be identified by a fingerprint? I don't think so. I think it's just a love for diversity. Why make anyone's the same? When you can make everyone different, why make them the same? So learn to appreciate yourself and others in the same way. Beautiful. Beautiful. Sure, we'll take this as our last question this evening. Yes, you. He's just bringing you a microphone.
Hi, namaste. I wanted to maybe ask, so one of my least favorite voice in my head is the voice that is always asking, am I developing? Am I growing spiritually? Am I on the right path? So maybe you can address that.
Sure. Well, first of all, a lot of us do that. We approach our spirituality the same way that we approach, running on a treadmill or running not on a treadmill. You begin with a certain number of miles at a certain pace, and then you go every day, and eventually after a certain number of days or weeks, you should be able to increase your time, increase your speed, increase your angle. Then you know you're getting better. If you weight lift, you should be able to lift more weights after a month of weightlifting. Then you know you're getting better. And so when we start on a spiritual path, a lot of us apply the same thing to it. But it actually isn't like that. Spirituality is not about getting better and better. It's about getting more and more real. Being more and more in tune with your true self, which is peaceful, which is joyful, which is divine, which is abundant. And so yes, naturally, of course, you will find that you are blossoming in ways that you could consider better, but not because you've developed some new skill, but simply because you are uncovering more and more of your true nature. And because you're less stuck with the things that take away your peace and take away your joy. So I try not to ever think, how am I doing? it's so tempting. I mean, it's so tempting to be able to somehow label ourselves. You're doing great. You can skip meditation for a little while, right? It's like, I've been so good on my diet, I can have a blueberry muffin. Or we say, oh, God, you've been awful, you haven't been doing it well. And then it's just yet another reason to berate ourselves. Yet just another reason to judge ourselves. Neither way is it positive or helpful. So I try to avoid that at all costs, but I would say if you are looking for a way to at least gently know whether you're at least on the right path, because that's a question that arises similar to this, is, so I've been doing these practices. How do I know if I'm on the right path? Is this the right path for me? And again, there's no equation, but there's some guideposts that you could use. For example, do you find yourself getting angry less frequently or more frequently? Less frequently? Sounds like you're on the right path. Do you find yourself more and more grateful? Or do you find yourself more and more frustrated and feeling like you are lacking? Spiritual development is going to make you feel more and more grateful because you're more and more aware of the fullness of yourself. You're more and more living in that truth of yourself, which is full. So you will be grateful. Do you find yourself more and more inclined to help others and give to others? Or do you find yourself more and more looking for what others can do for you? The more we develop and evolve spiritually, the more we realize, number one, that the other is self. And so just like we serve ourself, right? My leg itches, I scratch it. My tummy is empty and growling, I feed it. The body is tired, I put it to sleep. We take care of it. So in the same way, we start to see others as self. And therefore we start serving them. So these are just some very gentle guideposts. Watch how frequently you get angry. Watch how grateful you find yourself. How easy is your gratitude practice. Watch whether your internal instinct is to share and to give, to serve, or is it to grab and to get? Start to notice how easily, or not easily, you're able to choose love and choose peace, no matter what's going on around you. So when we are spiritually undeveloped, our internal state is pretty much determined by the external state. In Hindi, we call the external state paristiti, and our internal state our swastiti. So if I'm spiritually undeveloped, my swastiti, my internal state, is going to depend on external state. Things are good, people are nice to me, everything I want is happening according to plan, my internal state is good. Things are not happening according to plan, people are not being so nice to me, I'm not getting what I want, my internal state is miserable. The more spiritually developed you are, the less your internal state is hooked into the external state. The more you are able to automatically experience, generate, manifest, live in an internal state, regardless of what's happening around you. It's that peace in the chaos, or that noiselessness in the noise. you're able to find something inside that doesn't need the external world to validate it. So those are some just signposts you can use as you're looking. But, you're human. And you're having a human experience as part of a karmic journey. And so, go easy on yourself. If you find that today you got more angry, okay, no problem. Tomorrow will be different. Keep watching yourself, but with gentleness, with love, with awareness that you may be having a bad week. Something may be going on. Because we are still in these human bodies, and things as unconnected to our spiritual growth as how much sleep we're getting. What's happening with our hormones, especially for women, but also for men. What the weather is like. What we've been eating. If we've been eating good, nourishing food, or if we've been on the road, forced to eat junk. And these things actually have an impact. And a lot of those signposts, they have an impact on our emotional state, on our mental state. And so, notice yourself, be aware frequently, every day if you can. But do it gently. If you notice that there's a period of time in which things seem to be going in the wrong direction, don't beat yourself up about it. It literally could be something as simple as a new neighbor next door who makes so much noise that you're just not getting enough sleep at night. Look at other factors in your life as well. And then if you decide that maybe something needs to be adjusted in your spiritual practice, so you come for a spiritual retreat. You get a spiritual tune-up. Charge the battery, as Pujya Swamiji says. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evenings. I am leaving tomorrow morning for Israel. I will be in Israel for the next 9 days, 7 days, but 2 days of travel, for a beautiful wellness summit. It's the Global Wellness Summit, where they're bringing together top leaders in health, in wellness, in medicine, in longevity, in innovation. And by God's grace, they had a beautiful insight that spirituality plays a very big role in wellness, which is really kudos to them because it's unique in the field of a lot of that, a lot of the world of wellness abroad. And so I have been invited to go there and to give a keynote address there and to lead a beautiful fire ceremony there. And so I'm going to be there for the next, I come back late on the 7th evening. So we will start satsang back up again on November 8th. So I hope that a lot of you will still be here. I realize that many of you will not be here. And those of you who will no longer be here, I look so forward to seeing you all on your next trip back home to Rishikesh, back home to Parmarth, and beautiful wishes on your journeys wherever they take you. But just remember that you have a home here in the Himalayas. And of course, until you can come back, you can join our beautiful global family, joining us through the gifts of technology, and then keep coming back. And for those of you who will still be here, I look so forward to seeing you all back on 8th of November.
Om Bhurбhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo